common. Like hardly any companies make them, but Fender makes one.
Yes.
And I hit up my buddy, and it works there, and I was like, hey man, like, can I try one of those? Because Mikey Way, the bass player in My Chemical Romance, he had a signature model short scale with Fender, but it was the Squier version. But it looked cool because it was like a black neck and a black headstock, and it just looked cool. And if I'm going to try one, I might as well try the one that I know that I have to do less aesthetic touch-ups on, and so it's kind of funny. Like later on, I started using that one in particular, and then I met him. He was doing a session, and I showed him pictures. Like, oh, dude, here's me using your signature bass or whatever. And he was like, why? Why do you? But it was just funny, so I don't know if it's something about just my size or the mechanics or whatever, but I tried it and I loved it, And then I remember some people going like, "Oh, dude, short scale bass, like that's like cheating," and I was like, "Really? It's like cheating? Like, what does that even mean?"
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's like saying if you wear running shoes, you're cheating, like as opposed to running barefoot or something. It's just like it's not cheating just because it's a short scale. It's like I don't need those extra frets, man.
Yeah.
Like I'm not soloing, and but I really liked it, and so I started off on that Mikey Way Squier signature and used that for a little while, and then I think it was a NAMM or something that they had put out they re-released them, and it was called the Offset series, and they had a PJ setup in there, and it was an actual Fender. It wasn't a Squier, and it was like a higher end. And they were doing limited release of them, and I hit him up and I was like, "Hey man, any chance I can get into these?" And he's like, "Yeah, sure. Like, just let us know which ones you want and whatever." And so that's what I've been using ever since. So it's like this Offset series. It's a PJ setup, and I use the Geezer Butler signature passive EMGs.
Yeah. Ooh.
Amazing. So I have those hot rodded in there, and then these new ones they made for me for this tour. The paint job is a Cadillac white diamond. So it's white with like a silver sparkle in it, but like a very subtle silver sparkle. You can see it in certain lights, and then a mirrored pick guard.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's high end. Yeah, it's high end. And then recently, I haven't used it yet, but recently I had my buddy who's Dunnable Guitars. He's like a boutique sort of guitar maker, and he made me a Flying V. Because I wanted to go back. I go, everything's got to go full circle. So he made me a short scale Flying V that was a Cadillac white diamond with a mirrored pick guard on it or whatever. And so this next run, I'm gonna use that a little bit and see what that's like. But
do you change anything when you go from Zakk Sabbath to Ozzy, tone wise?
There's more distortion. It's a little bit more overdrive in the Zakk Sabbath stuff.
With Zakk Sabbath.
Yeah, there's more overdrive in that. And then I use the wah on the NIB basically intro.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's the only difference. Even the tuning is pretty much the same.
Yeah. How much fun that is. That is. Oh my God.
It something that started off as like a joke, really. And a joke in that, not musically, but just the joke of an idea. Zakk and I were on this tour called the Heavy Metal All Stars.
Yeah.
And so we were in whenever our time came up to play, because it's basically just a bunch of, kind of higher end dudes playing cover songs with a backing band. Yeah. And usually those songs are songs that made them popular, like Udo singing Accept songs and, whatever. Joey Belladonna sings a couple Anthrax songs. But it was fun, so it was cover songs. So Zakk's like, let's just do Sabbath songs. Great. So at some point in the tour, it just came to me, and I go, oh, it would be funny if if this was a real thing and we called it Zakk Sabbath or whatever. And we just laughed. And then I was like, that's actually not a bad idea. So I hit up my buddy who's a graphic designer, and I go, hey man, do the Masters of Reality Black Sabbath logo, but make it say Zakk Sabbath. And he's like, okay. So he sent it to me, and and that was the moment when I showed Zakk the logo. That's whenever he was like, we have to do this, And he's like, that's great or whatever. And I was like, all right.
I was on one of your first gigs at the Viper Room.
Yep.
And it was like a sweat box.
Oh,
Couldn't even move. I couldn't even get out.
It was insane. Like so he's like, well, we should do this. We should try it. And I go, oh, okay. Well, like, I was uncertain how it was going to work because there's a level of education that has to be done. Like Zakk Sabbath. Like, what is it? Like, well, simply it's Zakk Wylde doing all Black Sabbath songs. That's easy if you know. But if you don't know, there's a level of education that has to come with advertising, something like that, right? So that was the struggle, or at least I thought was the struggle. But it seemed like people got the memo pretty easily and pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
So my buddy was the talent buyer at the Viper Room, and he's like, "Hey man, like I'm the talent buyer here. Like if you ever want to, do something here." And I go, "I got this thing, man. Tell me if you think I'm crazy." And he's like, "Oh, that would be awesome. Like, when do you want to do it?" And I go, "Oh, let's do it on a Friday, and and we'll do that, and we'll see how that goes." And now the Viper Room it's a club, but it's a bar.
Yeah.
It's a 250 capacity bar or whatever. And for those of you that don't know, it's a bar. And in my experience, people don't buy tickets in advance to go to a show at a bar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's a level where you go like, you know what, it's a bar. I know that I can just show up and buy a ticket that day, or when I go in. And at least that was the thought process, So I was like, well, let's put it on sale like 6 weeks in advance. And, hopefully it'll sell out like the day of. This is what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Like, we got 6 weeks to kind of ramp it up and educate people of what it is. So we did it. We put it on sale. It sold out in 45 minutes. Right? And I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. And he's like, let's put up a second day. And like, this following Saturday.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. You think we should do that? And he goes, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So an hour later, we put up the Saturday show. And that sold out in 45 minutes. And we were like, maybe we have something here, And that was like, when was that? That was, I think, October 2016. And, here we are. We're doing, 3 shows at the end of this month, and those are all sold out. And that's like Sacramento and San Jose. And we're doing a festival in Las Vegas, and it's crazy how that thing has just built this life of its own. And
yeah, but, and the way I look at it is you guys are keeping the legacy of Sabbath.
Yes.
Because you guys are, of course, obviously connected with the Sabbath legacy anyways through Ozzy.
Yeah.
So who better than you guys to actually, carry on?
Yes. There is, if you look at it objectively, I guess there is a small degree of separation,
very small.
For us to be doing it and stuff. But I think you're right, though, what you said. It was like, it's like fun in that it's like, because the three of us, me, Zakk, and Joey, we joke that the three of us as, legitimate guys in our own right, if we started our own band and if we were playing original music, we wouldn't be selling out clubs.
No one
would give a crap. Like,
well, you have, Black Label Society.
But in the grand scheme of things, if us three guys started a brand new band and created original music, it would be infinitely less successful than Zakk Sabbath is.
I agree.
But the success of Zakk Sabbath, I think, is very simply people going out and having a good time because they want to hear that music, and we dig a little deep into the catalog, and they're just going out and they're having some drinks and just listening to cool music and having a good time.
But you guys are very respectful to the legacy and very authentic.
Yes.
So it's not just thrown together and it's just,
it's blood, sweat, and tears, man.
Yeah.
You were there suffering with everybody else at those gigs. We've built this thing up to where it's a 2-hour set nonstop. Like there's no breaks.
I know.
Like it's
I saw
it's
it.
just nonstop.
It's amazing. And like you said, everybody loves it in the crowd,
Yeah.
You mentioned about, our members of the heavy metal community that have passed on, and eventually, there's going to come a time that, it's not the ones that remain are not going to be around anymore, and either retire or passed on. What is the future of metal?
Man, if I had a crystal ball, I honestly,
new bands coming up that you
yeah.
see in the horizon that are worthy of being in that pantheon?
I have an interesting perspective because in a lot of ways, metal will exist and it will continue to exist and it will continue to be the thing that it is because it speaks to a certain type of individual that finds this music as a soundtrack to their lifestyle. And that is going nowhere. And I feel there's a lot of like sort of misconception that who's going to bring back rock and where's the the resurrection of rock and metal, and I kind of think of it in a different way, that maybe MTV a bit unfairly kind of blew up heavy metal to a point to where it was unrealistic, right? Like maybe Def Leppard shouldn't have sold 100 million records, right? And maybe without MTV they wouldn't have. I don't know. Obviously, I have no answers.
Oh no, I got the answer because I was part of that with Quiet Riot. Without MTV, we would have never had the first debut, the debut metal record to go to number one.
Right. Yeah.
That would never happen.
Right. And there was something about the perfect storm of MTV at that time to where everyone was tuned in. And those bands like Quiet Riot, Twisted Sister, Def Leppard, Motley Crue. I mean, those
Poison.
Bands became huge, and it was in the MTV era that those bands became huge. So I don't look at it like when is it coming back? I kind of look at it. It was like that at the time that it was in its height was based on just the format of where we were in the world. And maybe now where it's leveling off at is where it really should always have been at.
That's interesting because you say at its height. To me, metal at its height initially was Hendrix.
Sure.
Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
The Who. Sabbath. Deep Purple. That to me was the real foundation.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then Judas Priest coming on later on,
Yeah.
British metal coming in, of course, Motorhead and Saxon and AC/DC and everything that came after that. I saw the 80s as, I know, now we're getting into some, because I don't want to get myself into trouble with myself,
I think I mean by height as commercial height.
Well, put it this way. I can only speak for Quiet Riot. The record that we made was never supposed to be a huge record. We just went in there. As a matter of fact, I got the phone call from Kevin and says, listen, can you come in and play on one track as a, for Randy, which was Thunderbird, one song. And I used to play that song with Kevin in the band Dubrow, just to, to celebrate Randy's memory. And this in Dubrow before Randy passed away. So that song was actually written when he left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy, and Kevin wrote that song. And I was still playing with Ozzy. But I think we've had this conversation before. After Randy passed away, we were just like beat up emotionally. I hated. It's not that I hated. I was just in pain.
Yeah.
I hated to feel the pain of being on stage without Randy being there, going through exactly the same thing. It's the same set. The first thing you hear is Randy playing Diary of a Madman, lights come down, and it's like, oh my God. If you have been in denial all day long, reality is going to hit you right in the head with a huge hammer. That happens, and you're wearing the same clothes. It's the same castle with the same dwarf running around, and then you look over to my left, and Randy's not there anymore.
Yeah. So
all I could do was survive every single show, and I'm sure that, imagine Ozzy having to sing, going through that.
Yeah.
So when I got the phone call, I was just going to go over there and, to the studio and just record Thunderbird. And then, we just did it in a couple of takes. And then the producer says, hey, do you remember any of the other songs, such as Lake by Cadillac and whatever, that we used to do with Dubrow and with Quiet Riot? And by the time I left the session, I have done half the record. I was still playing with Ozzy
because you knew all the songs.
Because I had played them before.
They were older songs.
The only downside was that I didn't have my A gear.